Hello, my name is William James. I'm the host of The Bald Book Geek. My linktree is in the bio. Please head down if you want to get in touch. How are all of you? So, manga is outselling comic books, and to be honest, I'm not surprised. And it's quite funny. I want to start this by saying, watching Americans, particularly Americans, or probably a few Europeans in for the mix, but particularly Americans, bitching and moaning and forcing American centricism onto Japanese art. It's why Japanese artists are told and tend to stay away from Twitter. American centricism is not a good thing, and I know Americans tend to think the world revolves around them, but American wokeness and American culture infiltrating manga and people trying to force that on into manga and anime is scary, wrong, and destructive. So, and as I say, woke culture and cancel culture are exactly the same thing. They're equally as bad, equally as destructive, and there is so many reasons why manga is outselling it. Watching the artists on Twitter, watching the handful of artists that are on Twitter, you know, when Marvel pros and DC pros are bitching about manga, and then watching people come out the woodwork and saying, well, actually this and that. American comics tend to... there is some good stuff, mainly independent, but I'm talking mainstream. Pandering to your audience, and I think like Marvel's New Warriors and the She-Hulk thing and that I'm Not Starfire shit that just kind of exists, purely to pander to people, retconning existing characters in established universes to fit a narrative. And most of it, and these... as I've ranted about them before, these horrible writers and blue tick people on Twitter, manga, as to quote one Japanese pro, is expression. There is freedom of expression, and manga covers everything. Manga tends to be more violent, more sexual, more this, more that, darker. If it's light and fluffy, it's light and fluffy. Please stop trying to Americanize it. I mean, if Sailor Moon dub. But no, what happens is you end up with sanitization and censorship, which I'm very anti. Manga is outselling because it's giving the audience what it wants. The audience, the comic book readers, look at the top 20 list in the UK, look at the top 20 releases in the US, sometimes they're all manga. Then look at those sales figures next to American mainstream comics. And then you realise that the gap between them is massive. People don't want pandering. They don't want to have ideals forced down their throat. They want to enjoy what they're reading. There is a way of doing this, and I've said it before, how you can handle subject matter subtly. People want stuff that they connect to and enjoy. Manga, and I'm going to be controversial here, manga tends to have deeper characters, tends to be longer issues, tends to have more story focus, tends to be more character driven. It also tends to be better written, even in translation, and I know that sounds bad, but the censorship that comic book artists are doing now, especially Western ones I should say, is not a good thing. People don't want this. Like I've said, I did a whole video that comic books need to stop pandering to the audience. You need to make an audience think, and sometimes people want escapism from real world issues. And I think this is reiterating another point, that commentary on something is different to ramming it. Every science fiction is inherently political. Comic books tend to be inherently political, but not in the way that people think they are. Look at Watchmen, for a prime example, commentary on politics. It never actually goes into politics, it's a commentary on the world that it's set in. Where has this intelligence gone? Look at what Marvel are doing. Manga tends to be more intelligent. It depends what you're looking for as well. Yeah, there's some great stuff. But manga is more intelligent. It's more subtle. It handles the stories well. And there's a lot of like indie and small press graphic novels, Western ones that are stunning, by the way. I'm not dismissing the whole of it. I'm just talking about mainstream. Marvel are probably worse for it, as much as I love DC. DC have their issues as well. At the end of the day, The reason comic book manga is outselling comics is that manga is giving the reader what they want: fun, escapism, enjoyment, bit more of a deeper story, more character development, not just, oh my god, this character is a woman and that's her only personality trait, or this character is, oh my god, we have a gay character, but that's it. And also I will say this, manga tends to treat these characters like human beings, even in sort of the more porny stuff. Like, they're human, they're flawed, they're real, they actually have a story and a personality. American comic books tends to not. That is their defining trait. Their gender identity is their defining trait, their personality. Their race is their personality. Their sexuality is their personality. Their mental health is their personality. But there's nothing else. They're just shallow. And these new characters that are being pulled up and made are just dire. But manga is outselling because at this point, it's completely superior. The translations are fantastic. It's well handled. Character development, story, well written. And maybe, and I say this, American comic book companies need to learn from the Japanese, because the Japanese do it better.